I've always felt very strongly about it, and I've been watching very carefully what others have been doing.
Two of Princess Diana's iconic heirlooms, a black diamond pendant and a sapphire bracelet, were caught red-handed inside a private appraisal room at Sotheby's auction house, presented as the personal property of Laura Lopes, Queen Camilla's daughter. This illicit attempt to sell off the late princess's relics shattered a 26-year-old promise of safekeeping at the Highgrove estate, instantly igniting a ruthless counteroffensive from Prince William and Princess Kate. Aimed not only at dismantling the underground financial network of Camilla's faction, the investigation also unearthed a horrifying truth. The two recovered jewels were merely bait, while 12 other priceless treasures belonging to Diana had already been covertly smuggled onto American soil. Can Camilla and her daughter deny their guilt as the noose of evidence tightens before the public eye? How is the pipeline smuggling Diana's 12 relics to the United States truly linked to the Monteceto mansion? And what punishment awaits those who dare betray the crown? Deep beneath the fortified basement of the prestigious Sotheby's auction house on London's New Bond Street, a specialized appraisal room had long witnessed the most discreet transactions of the ultra-wealthy. A pool of warm light fell directly upon a round table draped in jet-black velvet. The hushed stillness was broken as a dark red leather box was carelessly unlatched. Resting haphazardly against the disheveled silk were two treasures that had once graced the crown: a salon sapphire bracelet encrusted with dozens of pear-cut diamonds and a mysterious black diamond pendant bearing the unmistakable hallmark of Princess Diana. Seated across the table was no royal of Windsor blood, but Laura Lopes, Queen Camilla's daughter. Laura tapped her red-lacquered fingernails against the tabletop, her eyes gleaming with restless impatience and undisguised greed. She bluntly stated that she needed fast cash, demanding that the appraisers value the pieces at a minimum of £30 million and prepare them for a discreet off-market auction with complete seller anonymity. Sotheby's senior appraiser gently pulled on a pair of white gloves and raised a magnifying loupe close to the pendant's prongs. Every unique contour of a tiny crown engraved beneath the sapphire's setting stood out in sharp relief, the exclusive hallmark crafted by the royal jewelers specifically for King Charles's first wife in 1985. The appraiser narrowed his eyes slightly instantly, recognizing the fatal gravity of the items before him. When Laura pressed impatiently, condescendingly asserting that these were private assets legally gifted by her mother, the expert merely gave a polite nod, even as his hand beneath the desk quietly pressed a silent emergency alarm. Within minutes, the distress signal and a complete set of high-definition photographs were transmitted directly to Kensington Palace's internal security network. In his private office, Prince William stood looking out over the mist-shrouded lawns. As his computer monitor flared to life, high-resolution close-ups of his mother's jewelry and an appraisal dossier bearing the name Laura Lopes appeared in the plain sight. The entire room seemed to freeze. William's gaze locked onto the black diamond pendant, a piece that had once captured Diana's radiant smile in the photographs of his childhood. A pain buried for 26 years erupted like a searing fire within his soul. At 17, amidst the harrowing grief following his mother's funeral, William had received a solemn promise from his father at the Highgrove estate: the entirety of Diana's jewelry vault and sacred relics would remain strictly sealed in a secure underground chamber, untouched by anyone guaranteeing their preservation until they could be passed down to the direct line of succession. For more than 2 decades, William had clung to that promise as an emotional anchor. Yet before his eyes now lay irrefutable proof that his trust had been shredded to pieces. His mother's sacred heirlooms were not resting safely in the stone vaults of Highgrove. They had been covertly pilfered by the woman who had wedged her way into the royal family, divided among her own daughter, and hawked like common commodities to cover reckless, lavish spending. Princess Kate stepped into the study, her eyes immediately drawn to the image on the screen. Without needing a lengthy explanation, she instantly recognized the sapphire bracelet her late mother-in-law had worn on her very first day entering the royal fold. Kate stepped forward, her hand tightening around her husband's arm. Her expression hardened, devoid of hesitation or weakness. The patient silence they had maintained for years to preserve family peace had been mistaken by Camilla's faction for weakness. Looking straight into William's eyes, Kate made it clear that the time had come to end this vile charade with decisive action. William turned to his wife, the heir's eyes blazing with a cold fire. The 26-year promise had vanished into thin air, and now the hunt for justice to reclaim every single one of Diana's treasures had officially begun. To bring down a network of greed, the first step is not to launch noisy accusations, but to sever the lifeblood that fuels its arrogance. William understood this well. Before delivering the decisive strike against the Sotheby's smuggling operation, he quietly orchestrated a devastating economic blow, evaporating the entire financial foundation that Camilla's faction had siphoned for 20 years. Ever since she entered the palace, Camilla had quietly woven a web of shadow trust funds masquerading as local patronages and charitable initiatives. Through manipulated under-the-table agreements, colossal sums of cash generated from the Duchy of Cornwall's prime commercial real estate portfolios were continuously drained, flowing directly into the accounts of Laura Lopes and her brother Tom Parker Bowles. Fueled by this unchecked illicit revenue, Laura indulged in an opulent lifestyle, buying up lavish country estates and squandering millions of pounds on disastrous investment gambles. Mother and daughter had assumed William would never dare dismantle the intricate financial structures established by his father. But they had miscalculated fatally. As the sole legal master of the Duchy of Cornwall, William struck with lightning speed without leaking a shred of information. Bypassing all mediators, he signed orders liquidating 20% of the Duchy's most valuable commercial real estate portfolio across central London and prime coastal developments, recouping $500 million in liquid cash, cleverly cloaked as a capital reallocation toward public community infrastructure. The move caught Camilla's media apparatus completely flat-footed and powerless to react. The fallout dealt a devastating blow to the rival faction. Lucrative commercial leasing contracts that generated annual dividends for Camilla's trusts were terminated overnight. Tens of millions of pounds in cash streams funneling into Laura Lopes's private pockets were frozen that very morning. Shell companies erected by the faction instantly drained of liquidity, teetering on mass default as bank loans came due. At her luxurious Wiltshire mansion, Laura Lopes stood paralyzed as her unlimited black credit card was repeatedly declined while attempting to purchase an expensive lot of antique paintings. When she contacted the branch manager overseeing her trust accounts, she received a chilling response. All access to the Duchy of Cornwall's revenue streams had been completely severed by the heir under direct orders from London. Panic surged instantly. Laura realized that the financial pipeline sustaining her regal lifestyle had vanished in the blink of an eye. Laura sped off toward Clarence's house to beg her mother for help. Standing by the window, Camilla looked on in sheer disbelief and simmering fury at the roster of frozen accounts. She realized with bitter clarity that William was not acting on blind rage. He had prepared this masterstroke long in advance, systematically snapping every financial talon and cornering them with no way out. It was this sudden financial ruin from the $500 million blockade that drove Laura Lopes to the edge, recklessly hauling Diana's sapphire bracelet and black diamond pendant to Sotheby's in a desperate bid to stave off mounting debts, turning her blind greed into a noose tightened by her own hands. A biting wind swept through the ancient pine groves surrounding the Sandringham royal estate in secluded Norfolk. Prince William's black car sped through the wrought iron gates, pulling up before the grand entrance to the shock of the assembled household staff. William stepped out carrying a combination-locked black leather briefcase, his brisk strides carrying him straight toward King Charles's private study, without the customary prior announcement. Inside the room, warm with the scent of smoldering pine logs, King Charles was leaning back in a leather armchair. As his eldest son entered with a gaze sharp as a razor, the king's expression subtly shifted. William did not sit. Walking straight to the oak desk, he unfastened the briefcase and laid down a thick dossier prepared by senior solicitors at the prestigious firm. Ferrer & Co.'s seen photographs from Sotheby's appraisal room were spread before Charles Laura Lopes, sitting brazenly beside Diana's sapphire bracelet and black diamond pendant, flanked by bank statements of illicit transactions and authenticated signature comparisons. William looked directly at his aging father, his voice hardened like hammer strikes against steel. He invoked the oath made 26 years earlier at Highgrove, exposing how his mother's sacred heirlooms had been smuggled out of the secure vault by Camilla and parceled out to her daughter. William condemned his father's years of blind indulgence, which had emboldened Camilla's faction to treat royal patrimony as their personal playground, and turned Diana's memory into a cash machine for individuals without a single drop of royal blood. Looking at the undeniable evidence on the desk, King Charles's lips trembled as he attempted to defuse the situation. He tried to explain that it might merely have been a storage oversight, or that Camilla had only loaned them to Laura for a private event, but William refused to entertain further prevarication. He withdrew a fateful document from his briefcase. It was a chilling ultimatum should the king continue to shield them or prove incapable of protecting the crown's treasures. William would immediately table the entire grand larceny dossier before the Privy Council. In doing so, evidence of the monarch's inability to govern his own household would be laid bare before the realm, clearing the path to trigger a direct regency by the heir. This was no longer a son's plea, but an ultimate leverage of royal power, compelling the king to choose between his throne and his grasping wife. Accompanying the ultimatum was a preemptively drafted executive royal decree. King Charles had to sign an immediate reclassification of all of Diana's jewelry and historical artifacts as the inalienable exclusive property of the direct line of succession. The decree permanently barred Camilla and her relatives from accessing, wearing, or disposing of any of these heirlooms. Furthermore, it empowered law enforcement to execute an immediate recovery of the seized items from Laura Lopes without interference from anyone within the palace. Faced with his son's relentless, irreversible resolve, King Charles broke. He knew that refusing to sign would jeopardize the very crown upon his head by morning. With trembling hands, Charles took up his fountain pen and inked his signature onto the royal decree. William retrieved the document, its ink still wet, locked his briefcase, and walked out without looking back. Armed with supreme authority, the path was clear for an uncompromising raid. Dense morning fog still blanketed the country roads, leading into Laura Lopes's secluded estate in Wiltshire at dawn on May 24th. The rural silence was shattered as 4 unmarked black pursuit vehicles silently closed in on the iron gates of the luxury villa. Exactly 2 hours prior, the High Court had granted a comprehensive Mariva freezing injunction. Every bank account belonging to Laura Lopes at Barclays and Coutts, along with all her personal investment portfolios, was entirely frozen. Laura was financially paralyzed, and the moment had arrived for authorities to recover the stolen property. At precisely 5:30 a.m., a specialized investigative unit breached the villa's main foyer. The heavy thud of boots from plainclothes officers and forensic experts echoed through the corridors. The master bedroom door on the second floor was thrown open, catching Laura Lopes in utter shock. Barely throwing on a silk dressing gown, her face drained of all color, as video cameras and officers carrying evidence bags stepped into the room. Panicked, Laura shrieked, threatening that everyone present would be dismissed for trespassing into the private home of the Queen of England's daughter. But the lead officer stepped forward impassively, presenting the court-approved emergency search warrant alongside the King's special decree signed at Sandringham. The officer stated flatly that Laura Lopes was a private citizen, and royal immunity would never extend to shield the possession of stolen goods. Under continuous recording, investigators moved straight to the built-in wardrobe beside the bed where a private safe stood ajar. The dark red velvet box containing Diana's black diamond pendant and sapphire bracelet was immediately located and brought to light, lying beside paperwork regarding the Sotheby's valuation. Each priceless piece was carefully retrieved by forensic specialists, every facet inspected and secured into serialized, tamper-evident bags right before Laura's eyes. The salon sapphire radiated a cold blue brilliance under the tactical flashlights, standing as an unassailable indictment. Laura collapsed onto the hardwood floor, sobbing uncontrollably in total humiliation and terror. She lunged frantically for her bedside phone to call her mother at Clarence House for rescue, but investigators promptly confiscated the device for wider forensic examination. Held on site, a thoroughly broken, Laura was forced to sign the evidence seizure record. The full footage documenting the search and the culprit's disgraced reaction was transmitted directly to William's command center in London, marking the total collapse of the most direct link in the plot to traffic Diana's legacy. Throughout her 2 decades inside royal circles, Camilla's sharpest weapon was never her royal title, but an insidious back-channel network embedded within the Buckingham Palace press office. By covertly leaking fabricated narratives and distorted private details to sensationalist tabloids smearing Diana in the past and Kate in the present, Camilla had routinely bent public opinion to her will. Whenever her faction faced exposure, this media machine sprang into action, creating smokescreens and redirecting public outrage toward other royals. But on the morning of May 24th, that manipulative engine was shattered beyond repair. The moment word reached Clarence House that Laura Lopes' residence was being raided and the jewels seized, Camilla erupted in sheer fury. Pacing her expansive drawing room, she frantically dialed the head of the Buckingham Palace press office. Her intent was ruthless: orchestrate an immediate smear campaign against Kate, fabricating claims of an emotional breakdown and a marriage to William on the brink of collapse. She calculated that this manufactured scandal would dominate the front pages, burying any reports of the Wiltshire raid. Yet all that answered Camilla's hysteria were endless dial tones. Camilla had no idea that at 5:30 a.m., the exact moment the first vehicle approached Laura's gates in Wiltshire, a specialized security detail under William's direct command had seized control of the Buckingham Palace press office. Internal communication lines were instantly severed. External server connections to media outlets were shut down. Press aides who had facilitated Camilla's whisper campaigns were ordered away from their desks, held under strict watch by royal guards. A total media blackout was enforced. Anyone caught contacting reporters or leaking a single word would face instant revocation of credentials, summary dismissal without severance, and immediate referral to national security authorities for breach of royal secrets. Camilla's 2-decade-old media megaphone was dismantled in minutes. The woman who once prided herself on controlling the nation's press was reduced to a powerless observer within the palace walls. Sinking into her armchair with her head in her hands, Camilla watched her information fortress collapse, unable to mount a single counterattack to shield her daughter. Meanwhile, in a closed room at the Royal Courts of Justice in London, Laura Lopes was confronting an unvarnished nightmare. Across the long wooden table sat not accommodating relatives, but William's steely legal counsel from Farrer & Co. Laid out before Laura was an airtight paper trail high-definition surveillance capturing her brazen conduct in Sotheby's private valuation room, matching latent fingerprints on the red velvet boxes, holding Diana's treasures, and exhaustive ledgers of her crippling personal debts, alongside years of unauthorized funds siphoned from the Duchy of Cornwall. William's lead counsel wasted no time on pleasantries. He slid an unconditional surrender agreement across the table bound with ironclad terms. Laura Lopes must formally admit to the unlawful possession of Princess Diana's black diamond pendant and sapphire bracelet. Sign an irrevocable waiver, forfeiting all present and future claims, disputes, or titles over any item belonging to Diana's estate. Consent to the total liquidation of her personal asset portfolio to recover all funds illicitly siphoned from royal estates. Looking directly into Laura's blanching face, the lawyer delivered a final ultimatum refused to sign before the stroke of noon, and the full 5:30 a.m. raid footage from Wiltshire, alongside the embezzlement dossier, would be released directly to international press wires, placing Laura Lopes at the center of the trial of the century. Staring at the incontrovertible evidence and realizing her powerful mother at Clarence House had been neutralized, Laura picked up the pen with trembling fingers. Tears of humiliation and dread pooled on the table. With every stroke of her signature, her long-held veneer of privilege dissolved. William's dual strategy of media suppression and precision legal pressure had achieved total victory, purging the opposing factions' influence across Britain. The recovery of the 2 heirlooms in Wiltshire and Laura Lopes' signed surrender appeared to mark the end of the war. Yet as the dark curtain was pulled back, a far more staggering secret emerged from the shadows. 2 days after the raid, under the comprehensive audit decree authorized by the king under William's pressure, an independent appraisal team unsealed the secure vault at the Highgrove estate. This was the sanctuary Charles had pledged would preserve Diana's complete collection following her 1997 funeral. As the multi-ton steel vault door swung open and lights illuminated the antique leather trunks, a chilling sight met their eyes. Almost all the velvet-lined drawers meant to hold Diana's personal jewelry were completely bare. According to the original inventory ledger, drawn up in September 1997, the vault had housed 14 priceless jewelry relics of Diana. The two pieces seized from Laura Lopes, the sapphire bracelet and black diamond pendant, were merely the tip of a massive trafficking iceberg. They were simply the final two items delayed by Sotheby's complex valuation procedures. The remaining 12 most precious treasures, including a miniature pearl tiara, an imperial emerald necklace, and a bespoke filigree diamond ring, had vanished from the vault years ago without a single paper trail. A top-secret cross-border financial investigation was immediately mobilized. Decrypting seized server records from Camilla's London network investigators traced an intricate transcontinental asset pipeline. Diana's 12 royal relics had never entered the European market. Instead, Camilla had secretly fragmented the collection and smuggled it across the Atlantic on private charters over several years. The entire treasure trove was subsequently registered under an anonymous Delaware entity named Arche Heritage Holding, a jurisdiction renowned for shielding the identities of beneficial owners. Yet the most shocking twist, the sharpest betrayal, lay within the shell company's ultimate beneficial ownership filings. A classified dossier codenamed Montecito Connection revealed that the Delaware entity was managed and indirectly enjoyed by the close financial advisory circle serving Meghan Markle and Harry's Montecito estate in California. The raw truth stood fully exposed. Camilla had been playing a sinister double game. On one front, she weaponized back-channel British media to widen the rift between William and Harry, driving Harry further from the palace. On the other, she covertly allied with the Monteceto faction, funneling Diana's 12 priceless heirlooms to the United States as implicit hush insurance, a transaction designed to ensure Meghan and Harry spared Camilla's darkest past in their tell-all memoirs and global documentary specials. The woman William thought was merely a petty grasping schemer was in reality orchestrating a transoceanic syndicate of illicit enrichment, bargaining his late mother's sacred legacy to safeguard her own crown. In possession of this devastating dossier, William and Kate refrained from an immediate press leak, opting instead for a calculated psychological coup to break the traitor in the very heart of high society. That evening, the annual royal banquet convened in grand fashion within St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle. Hundreds of noble guests, foreign ambassadors, and Britain's most prominent figures gathered beneath the dazzling chandeliers. Queen Camilla arrived draped in opulent red velvet, forcing a strained smile to mask the panic lingering after the recent strikes from London. The entire hall fell dead silent as the main double doors swung wide. Princess Kate glided into the room majestic in an emerald green gown. Upon her slender wrist, Diana's Ceylon sapphire and diamond bracelet, freshly liberated from the Wiltshire estate, cast a brilliant commanding blue radiance under the chandeliers. Every eye in high society gravitated toward Kate's wrist, and hushed gasps rippled through the banquet hall. It was a silent yet deafening declaration. Diana's legacy had returned to where it belonged. Kate took poised regal strides toward the dais, halting just paces from Camilla. As their eyes locked, Kate raised her wrist to adjust the drape of her gown, letting the sapphire catch the light directly in Camilla's direction. Camilla's expression shifted violently, flushing red, before turning ashen pale, her entire frame trembling as though struck by a physical blow. At that precise moment, William's trusted equerry stepped forward, placing a tablet into Camilla's hands. Displayed on the screen was the unredacted Montecito Connection dossier, the inventory of the 12 artifacts trafficked to Delaware, and the fund flow chart tracing straight to California. Accompanying the evidence was a brief note from William. "Every betrayal comes at a price. Your game is over." Camilla stumbled a step backward, clutching the arm of a gilded chair to keep from collapsing under the disdainful gaze of the assembly. Her years-long double game lay completely unmasked, plunging the mastermind into ultimate public disgrace. The seismic event at Windsor Castle set off the most sweeping purge in modern royal history. Without sensationalist media squabbles, the legitimate heir's sovereign guillotine fell coldly, delivering swift retribution to every individual tied to the plot to hijack Diana's legacy. First came the reckoning for Laura Lopes. Having signed the unconditional surrender of the Heirlooms, Laura was formally stripped of every royal prerogative. A lifetime ban was instituted. Laura and her family were permanently barred from Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Balmoral, and Highgrove. Every honorary patronship and charity trustee role she held was revoked on the spot. With all financial support from the Duchy of Cornwall permanently severed and her personal accounts frozen to recover millions previously siphoned, Laura faced total financial ruin. She was forced to quietly list her lavish Wiltshire estate at a distressed price to settle debts, retreating into seclusion amidst the cold disdain of the British aristocracy. Not a single door in high society would ever open again for the person who dared peddle Princess Diana's relics on the black market. For Queen Camilla, the psychological retribution was tenfold more severe. To safeguard the stability of King Charles's reign, her title was not publicly stripped, but she was reduced to a hollow figurehead, stripped of all substantive authority. All authority over the royal jewelry vaults was permanently transferred to Princess Kate. Every private secretary, security detail, and aide implicated in Camilla's influence peddling network was dismissed or reassigned to remote postings. Camilla was compelled to vacate central London residences and live in virtual isolation at Ray Mill House in rural Wiltshire, under round-the-clock surveillance by royal protection officers loyal to William. The woman who had maneuvered behind the palace curtains for over 2 decades now faced total solitude in her twilight years, deprived of encrypted lines, stripped of media handlers, and entirely shut out from affairs of state. To permanently safeguard his mother's heritage against future exploitation, Prince William signed the charter establishing the Diana Legacy Trust. This impenetrable legal structure designated all of Diana's jewelry, personal relics, and historic artifacts as perpetual heirlooms of the crown. Exclusive sole custody was granted to Catherine, Princess of Wales, with future succession passing directly to Princess Charlotte upon her 18th birthday. Anyone outside Diana's direct bloodline was permanently barred from laying hands on these relics. Weeks after the purge, a solemn royal service was held at Westminster Abbey. Amidst tens of thousands of Londoners lining the avenues with waving flags and roaring cheers, the state carriage carrying Prince William and Princess Kate arrived in the full radiant majesty of victors. Kate walked proudly beside her husband, a radiant smile gracing her lips. Pinned against her elegant bodice, Diana's black diamond pendant, freshly reclaimed from the shadows of greed, shimmered with defiant brilliance. Beside her, William held his head high, his eyes reflecting profound peace, having fully honored the sacred vow made to his late mother. The grief and resentment burdening his heart for 26 years had finally been washed clean. Truth had triumphed over greed, and justice had been delivered with unyielding resolve. Yet as their carriage rolled slowly toward Buckingham Palace, amidst the resounding bells of Westminster Abbey, William cast a quiet glance at the briefcase beside him, containing the Monteceto connection dossier. The battle in London had concluded with overwhelming triumph, Camilla's network entirely eradicated on British soil. But Diana's 12 remaining priceless treasures still lay inside anonymous vaults in Delaware, under the control of traders sheltered within the Monteceto mansion across the Atlantic. William gently tightened his grip on Kate's hand, his eyes fixed on the distant horizon. The fire for justice burning within the air had not waned. The campaign at home was won, but the transatlantic hunt for the 12 lost treasures had only just begun its fiercest chapter. Did Kate's direct confrontation with Camilla, wearing Diana's sapphire bracelet, cement her standing as the true rightful heir to the people's princess? Or will it paint her as the prime target for those harboring deep-seated malice toward the crown? In a sea of videos, I am so glad YouTube managed to bring this one to you. We pour a tremendous amount of care into researching every single detail of these royal histories. I know using a TV remote takes a little extra time, but your like and subscription are the ultimate motivation for our team to keep creating careful, high-quality stories for your screen. Thank you so much for your support.